Good morning. Nice of you guys to drop by.
What a piece of junk. What are you talking about?
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Look, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Trust me.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. Don't get technical with me.
This bickering is pointless.
Don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
How could you even say that?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, come on. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Would you get going, you pirate?
Get in there, you big furry-o! I don't care what you smell!
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
I like the sound of that.
Get a shuttle ready.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Shuttle Tydirium, what is your cargo and destination?
Transmission commencing.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in to the Shuttle Tydirium podcast, the mothership of casual X-Wing gameplay, as recognized by FFG. Now, I am your host, Captain James Chadwick, also known as Hey Chadwick on the FFG forums. And I have sitting next to me, Phil Mead, my co-pilot, also known as Baba Gadoosh on the forums.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
And we also have in the back, J-Bot, Jonathan Pierce, our cranky protocol droid. How you doing, J-Bot?
Oh, not too bad. I'm not too cranky tonight yet.
Excellent, excellent. And unfortunately, Jake Freed, who is our chief engineer, we've had some problem with Ewok fur in our intake.
What was that? Not the power. You know what, Jim? This is what we get. This is what we get when you decide to try a one bank in the shuttle. You can't do that. It just can't be done. The engines are completely shot now. I've got to take this up to the shipyard. And no if, ands, or... Yes. I know. We'll get you repaired too, and I will get some... Yes, I'm going to get some restraining bolts for our protocol droid. Don't worry. I won't let him talk to you like that again. Yeah, it's okay. Now get in the back. Okay. All right, Jim, I'm taking the shuttle. We're going up to the shipyard. We'll be back to pick you guys up after I fix all the damage that you've done. Of course. Okay, let's try this again. All right, that looks like it's working. You guys have fun on Endor. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. I'll see you.
He is actually doing a spacewalk right now to help clear out some of that Ewok fur. Something about J-Bot, Ewok on the wing. Anyways.
J-Bot, why aren't you up there helping him?
I did help. I got the Ewok. That was all. Wasn't that all I needed to do?
Is there anyone out there helping him?
I think Gonk is out there.
The Gonk droid's out there?
Yeah, Gonk's out there.
Good. He's always helpful.
Yes. So I have to say, I was late going to game night tonight because I always go to game night right before we record. And I had some things to do, and I was late. But I finally got the game, and I've not been able to game much. It's been like 5 weeks, and I've only been able to game twice out of those 5 weeks. And it was just nice to actually roll dice and be out there. So excellent.
Yeah, we ran out of space tonight, which is weird. We had probably 20 people there at least that were there, which was I'm excited for. It's great. There were a bunch of faces I didn't recognize, and
yeah, I didn't recognize a lot.
Hopefully, that's starting to spread a little bit, and people are. It's always good to see a community kind of thrive. Whatever game you're in. So hopefully, anybody listening to this is taking some of our previous episode stuff to heart and starting to try and push and spread the game a little bit, because it's great. More players is great.
And feedback, we love feedback. We have got email address, the Shuttle Tydirium podcast, or theshuttletydirium@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page, Shuttle Tydirium Podcast. It's a group. Give us feedback. Go to the FFG forums. Post there on Team Covenant or BBG, as in Board Game Geeks. Any type of feedback is great. We really do appreciate it. In fact, my captain's question is from one of our fans, Jonathan Lohman. He actually suggested to me from Facebook a captain's question. Are you guys ready for that?
I am prepared.
All right. So I don't want Phil. I don't want you stealing J-Bot's answer. So I'm going to go to
stealing my
J-Bot
answer.
first.
Hey, well, I can't
don't
help
get him
it,
angry.
You know? I just
Don't get him angry. I think I know the answer to this one, but if you could change one stat on any one ship in the game, up or down a point, any attack, defense, shield, hull, how much it cost, 1 point on any one ship, what would you change?
Oh wow, that's actually tough. I kind of curious to know what you think I would say after I kind of figure this out in my head.
Okay. If you want to,
so go ahead.
If you want to go to Phil, you can pass to Phil if you want time to process.
Yeah, and if Phil's ready, let's see what Phil has, because there's a lot of options for me out there. There's a lot of cards I really, really would like to see change. But you're talking about stats or point cost?
Stats. It can be stat or point cost. I don't know. You know, any ship. I guess it says stat. One stat changed up or down.
Okay. Yeah. Give me a second. I'll mull it over.
Okay. He's computating. Phil, if you want to computate, I can always go first. But
well, I wouldn't want you to go first. Because I'm going to steal your answer. It's you decrease the attack value on the TIE Phantom by 1.
I thought about saying that. It was like, wait a minute, we can't have a consensus in this. We have to disagree. I want to increase the Phantom's attack to 5. I think
that would be great.
I so want to reduce the value to 3. It would not be an insane ship at that point. I would not have conniption fits about it.
Yeah. But you know what so I'll let you talk about that. But I think what I would actually do is change the attack value on the Millennium Falcon to a 2.
Oh.
So bring it more in line with the Outer Rim Smuggler stat line.
Most people would say bring the Outer Rim Smuggler up in line with everyone else.
Yeah, but I would say bring it down because I don't like 3 dice turrets. You know, I think the ship would have been more interesting as a 2 attack dice base ship.
I hear you.
It makes sense with it.
No one would fly it. No one.
Well, all depends on the cost.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if you just dropped the attack value by 1 and kept it the same cost, no one would fly it, and that would make sense. But I think that there would be ways, depending on the cost and depending on the abilities, to attack value. You know, maybe that's a little harsh, but
that's what you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, J-Bot, you ready or no?
Yeah, I have to keep it to the kind of the ships that I'm most familiar with, which is obviously more of the earlier waves. I don't know any of the newer ships quite well enough. I don't know that it's really the best way that I would quote unquote fix it, but obviously the Hawk being my favorite one.
You would decrease the attack value.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I actually don't think increasing the attack value would help it as much as giving it a second shield. For me, it's not a primary attack based ship. That's my personal opinion from having flown it so much. It is a turret carrier. That's what you essentially are buying that ship for, and
it wasn't for me tonight.
Yeah. Well, you're playing me too, so that helps. But otherwise, I feel like the ship is pretty solid. It's more agile than most people give it credit for. It's not fast and maneuverable, but it has a 2 agility, which is great. But the 1 shield and 5 hull is the exact same stats as the Zyzer ship. I can't think of the butterfly shape. Shizor, whatever. Scissor. The scissor ship. The butterfly shaped one. It's the same stat line as it. Pepper. Yeah, minus the agility and obviously the attack value. But it's a bulkier ship. It's a heavier ship. Why is it? Why are they the same stat line for hull and for shield? So I personally would want another shield on it as a kind of light duty freighter. Either that or hull, but shield makes it a little bit more it can take a rocket hit, like if that makes sense. Like it can take a missile or a torpedo hit and not basically be dead and in one shot. That's my thing. Is it seems to be a little bit weaker than it should be. But that wouldn't be the way I'd fix it. That would just be the way out of this very specific change.
I would have thought you would have added the attack value, because there've been interviews on other podcasts with some of the FFG guys, and they admitted that they perhaps made it too low with one attack die.
They regretted that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't mind that so much as if I were to fix it, I would give it a system. I know this sounds crazy, but that's what I would do. Is I would give it an opportunity to have a system. It's more of a kind of support ship. To me, there's very few ships out there that are really slow that don't have like a very obvious, system or role, and that suddenly gives that thing so much kind of variability. It's like, it's got one attack die, but you can give it the accuracy correctors or things like that gives it
turn
that
it to two.
that gives it that two. It's like, but you're also giving up a system that might be able to do other things. And
what if they'd come up with a title, something other than the Moldy Crow?
The only thing I know is that they're really the ship is very limited in its history. The Moldy Crow basically was it. There was no other kind of Moldy, not Moldy Crow, of Hawk out there, and so you're limited in without really just making something up. And I know they try and stick to as much of the lore as they can. But that would be, if I had to fix the ship without really altering it in any way other than, like, I would keep the point costs and things exactly where they're at. I would just give it a system upgrade, and that suddenly it frees up a lot of options for it without being, in my opinion, way overpowering.
Right now,
it lets turrets. It's like, my turrets hit for. They're a given 2, so I can put a TLT on it and always do 2 with it, and always get 2 hits. That makes it.
Or
Fire
control TLT.
Or fire control, that sort of stuff, and it's like, you're an agile ship. Well, guess what? Like, you're getting hit for 2 every turn or twice a turn from my TLT, regardless of asteroids, regardless of all this stuff, and I'm going to strip tokens off of you with this ship. It becomes a mobile support, just kind of, we've really got to take this thing out before it just picks us apart no matter what we're flying. So,
and with the idea of it being a title, it would only work for one, so you can't put on all of them. So
yeah, that might work.
That would be a cool title for it.
Just a title system upgrade. We can call it the J-Bot title. I like it.
Jayhawk.
Yeah, well, you can still submit it to the
you could still put it
the custom card league.
I thought the ships. That's right. It would be a title, so that's really more of an upgrade.
Yeah, the upgrades aren't done yet. I'm putting them together right now.
Oh, excellent.
Well, they might be done by the time this podcast posts, but this episode.
I'll whip one up as we're talking here. It's not that much. It's not too hard.
Now, I'll briefly touch on something, just because it's Hawks. I know you love them, and I know someone on either our local Facebook page or the Shuttle Tydirium told us how FFG's got these new big global tournaments, and they're all around the world, and they have names like Hoth and Jakku and different names. And one of them, I don't know, it was Yavin or Hoth or whatever. One of them that's lately, I don't even know where it was, but they're 2-day events. And there was like 100+ people, and some guy the first day went 6 wins, 0 losses with 4 scum Hawks. And apparently he got creamed in the second day.
Yeah, the list is actually one when the Hawks came out for Scum that I was like, ooh, I can fit all those into a list and TLTs, but they didn't. He's running some crew that didn't exist at the time,
right? So
which do some great things that, because I haven't seen those new crew, I haven't played those new ships. I'm like, wow, that's a great combo with all the other stuff.
True, yeah.
Forlom was one. I think Zuckuss was another. Dengar was another.
Dengar was in there, yeah.
Maybe that was it, but it was Paylob with TLT. It was Turkle Nux or whatever his name is with TLT, and then 2 generic, the Spice Must Flow runners with TLTs, and they had spread out the crew and all, and it was pretty cool. Just Knight's concept, but I think from what I hear, Triple U-boats blew them up the next day. It's great against Imperial Aces, but not against U-boats.
Yeah.
So I know we just to touch on tournament stuff, blah blah blah. I thought it was interesting that someone took a really crazy list that I thought was neat.
Yeah, I bet that list is only getting better because I think people are moving away from U-boats more back towards PAL bases right now.
Yeah, there definitely were a lot of them at our local regional that I didn't go to. I just saw photographs of on our Facebook page, and it's like, hey, here's everybody, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of PAL bases. Like, ooh, that would have been nasty to go to, unless you had something that was specifically designed to go against it.
I'll refrain from comment so that we keep things positive and not anti-tournament. No, it's just more like just a repetition of percentages of how many people played PAL bases. I think I saw someone had done a graphic and it said about X-Wing, and it said, do you have three jump masters? If yes, you play Scum U-boat list. Okay, then it said, if not, do you like to win? If yes, play Imperial. If no, play Rebels.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors. But that's just kind of a comment. I'm not anti-tournament. I know they're fun. People have fun with them. Yay, tournaments. We're not the anti-tournament. We're the casual tournament, or casual podcast.
Oh, no. It looked like everybody had fun in it, and that was the most important thing, is everybody looked to have had a great time, regardless of what list they took. And there were definitely some that people at our local store that I know they took that were completely off the wall, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going. I don't care how I do. It's just a lot of fun."
And to me, I think they sell beer there, so that's awesm.
Wow, that might have been part of the fun too.
Yeah. All right. So just for my captain's questions, I know we're going on for a bit. I would pick the Phantom. Attack value is 3 instead of 4 because 4 is ridiculous. It just moves around. It outflanks you. It just destroys you. Back when basically 2 Phantoms at 86 points would win tournaments with 14-point loss, Like, it was down 14 points. It didn't need 14 points. If you took anything else, it just gave points to your opponent. So it just won when people took 2 Phantoms. And that was sure pre-nerf, but it's just too ridiculous. It's just, too powerful.
I think they might have regretted that choice as well.
Yeah. Are there any other ships with a base 4 attack yet?
The Ghost.
Oh, right, you're right. The Ghost does have it, but that's not a crazy agile ship.
Right, it's new, and it's a huge honking thing, so it's easy to get focus fired down, So that's mine. No big surprise, but yeah, the Phantom. That nerf it. All right, so we can probably go into the ready room to talk about Mission 2, Asteroid Run.
So both you guys got games in with this mission, correct?
Yes.
If you'd call those games.
Great. So let's start by talking about the mission parameters here. So I got the booklet open here.
Do you have Can you read the plot summary?
Yeah. Tone? I'm just going to read through the whole thing because oftentimes we skip over stuff.
Okay.
While scouting the Outer Rim, Rebel ships came across a hidden Imperial outpost. Unfortunately, before they could contact the rebellion, the Imperial facility's ion cannons fired a barrage, disabling the communications relay and hyperdrive engine on one of the Rebel ships. In desperation, the Rebels have fled to a nearby asteroid field, while their astromechs attempt to repair the damaged ship's systems. Hopelessly outnumbered, the disabled ship must survive until its systems are back online, and then must flee the battlefield in order to notify the Rebel High Command.
Flash, you promised me Flash.
So mission setup is, for us, it was 100 points each. the Imperial player can deploy within range 1 of either player's edge of the play area, so on the opposite sides of the table.
But not right or left.
Yeah, it was just across. And he's not required to place all of their ships on the same side of the play area, so you can split your deployment between those two edges.
And you better.
It's a good idea too. And they deploy completely before the rebels deploy. The rebel player then places their ships anywhere in the play area, not within range 1 to 3 of either the Imperial edge or Rebel edge of the play area. So either of the places where the Imperial player set up.
And just to let you know, that's where we got it wrong the first time. J-Bot did not. He thought it was 1 to 3 of all edges.
Right. So he was just in the dead center.
Yeah. Don't do that.
That was
bad.
Not pretty.
So you deploy not within range 1 to 3 of either the Imperial or Rebel table edge, and then you choose one of your ships as the Rebel player to be the disabled ship, the one that got hit with a ion cannon in the intro, and you put a tracking token to keep track of that ship. Then the Imperial player places 6 asteroid tokens anywhere in the play area not within range 1 of a Rebel ship or other asteroid tokens. So you can be pretty creative with that asteroid setup. You can put the asteroids right in the way of the Rebel player to screw them up.
Right. So everybody puts their ships down, and then you put the asteroids. You could really mess with people.
Yeah, you could definitely mess with people with those. And then you start. Special rules, you keep track of the rounds. The disabled ship has special rules. Until the disabled ship's systems are repaired, it may only be assigned 1 or 2 speed maneuvers. At the start of round 5, the disabled ship is repaired, and then the Rebel player can give it any maneuver, and it can attempt to flee the area. We also have Imperial reinforcements. So this is the same reinforcement rule as in Mission 1. If the Imperial player loses a ship, they can replace it with a TIE Fighter Academy pilot during the end phase of that turn. And they place that in their deployment zone, so either table edge. And then it's objectives. The Rebel victory is the disabled ship must flee off of either player's table edge during round 5 or later. And if it flees, it's not considered destroyed. And Imperial victory is destroy the disabled ship. That's the scenario.
I have you now.
Right. So it's a hunt for one specific ship. The Rebel ship that's being hunted is it's like a lame duck. It's got only 1 or 2 speed moves. And it has to stay on the board for 4 turns, and then it can flee in the 5th turn onward. And it has to flee off of one of those 2 table edges. Can't be any table edge. It's one of the 2 table edges that the Imperial player deployed in.
Right. So I was hoping to get a lot more games with this, but I did get some games in, and did theory crafting. And J-Bot, you got some games in. Did you feel, I kind of wish I'd done some more games. I wish I had time, but unfortunately my free time was family devoted lately.
Yeah, I played the 2 games against you. You know how bad those went. So
yeah,
I'm to the point now where I'm not really sure I'm the best person to be asking for advice on these. It's basically the setup for me in the first one was really bad. I had an idea and it just didn't work. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. There was no real kind of power gaming level theory crafting for me. It was more just I'm going to take Y-wings and a K-wing with bombs and put up essentially a fortress with them as I move. And I'm going to move, get away, and essentially duck into the asteroid field wherever you put it and play defense there. And turn 1, I just died. I mean, that's really all there was to it. There's no way I could have survived. It was turn 2, but I mean, after turn 1, there literally was nothing I could do at that point. I mean, I had 2 hull left, and there's not much. I mean, no, there's almost nothing that would have stopped it at that point.
Right.
On a K-wing that's got 1 agility, there's almost nothing left at that point to keep them alive. So, and then second game where I tried to play defense, I just screwed that up bad. From the first turn.
Let's go in with the first mission. I think so. You had the K-wing and then the 2 Y-wings. So you did not take bigs, which I'm sure most people would start off taking bigs. I know when I played the Rebels, that's the first thing I did.
Yeah, first thing
bigs.
Yeah, it's one of the first thoughts that crossed my mind. You got to have bigs in there.
But I don't think necessarily your bomb one was bad. Maybe if it was all seismic charges as opposed to the Connor nets, because the Connor nets, you would do 1 damage and it would stop the action.
Right. Yeah, see, and I'm going to say this, you're obsessed with the seismics. They literally would have done nothing in that game because
proximity. Proximity.
No,
well, that's what I had was proximity.
Yeah, I don't agree with either of that. I think that the only way to go if you're using bombs is ion bombs.
Well, those would have done nothing either because
I don't think they would have been great, but I think that in this scenario with the reinforcements, if you kill a ship, it comes back in your flight path.
Right. Well, in mine, the choices were basically I was stuck because he was running everything was a 6 pilot skill or higher.
So I did the Imperial Gunslingers, which I reviewed a few episodes ago. So it was the Inquisitor, Mauler Mythal, Backstabber, Scourge, and somebody leader. One of the TIFO.
Yeah, the one Zeta. And Zeta something.
Yeah,
the one who
Zeta leader. Yeah,
attack dice.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was. I mean, it was the I move. If I had anything that was like a regular sort of it blows up after you drop it type of bomb, it wouldn't have done anything because you were never even that close to me. It was. I had 1 bomb actually go off that you would have touched, and nothing else would have done any damage.
You got me with two Connor nets.
No, I thought I only got the 1. I got you the first turn with 1. Oh, you drove into the second one, yeah. But yeah. So that's 2 damage. This is totally, I guess, an aside to this. I don't like the way Connor nets work. I hate the way Connor nets work. They need to be static and permanent obstacles on the game. Proximities, I understand. When you're driving into a thing and the bomb locks onto you, it's an old school from, not current, but, old school warfare. It's just a metallic proximity style mine. But a Connor net to me is, I don't know what the heck it's supposed to be, but I drop it and 1 ship flies into this thing and it's gone. So, to me, it doesn't do anything. I would rather shoot you with an ion cannon than have this Connor net. The only bonus to me that it does is it takes away your action. And that's it. Everything else is I spent all this money on a Connor net, and it's like it goes beep and it's gone.
It's
and it
good
can only
against
take 1
ace. It's good when you've got Imperial aces and there's only 3 ships, and you take Sunterfell or Debater and you ionize them and you take away their actions and they're stuck right where you want them and then you blast them.
Yeah. That's what's good against. When you're fighting against, more than 3 or 4 ships, they're really not that great.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they only affect 1 ship.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what kind of, it's always bugged me from the beginning. That's why I never actually used them is because I used them the first time I ran K-Wings and they were useless. It's like I can jump over your ships with my K-Wings and I can freeze one of your guys and he drifts forward for 1 and that's it. Hey, congratulations, I did 1 damage. Like I would rather hit you with proximities if they're going to do the same thing. I'll jump over you and you have 3 undodgeable dice that I have used with that K-Wing, that double K-Wing list, and like just decimated somebody's front line. I move, I slam over you, and with advanced slam, I dump those 2 things on top of whichever ships I want to, and can essentially just crush ships with it. But the Connor nets are like, hey, I froze 2 of your guys, but I'm already past you and gone. Like, oh, whoop-de-doo. There's nothing I can do from this point. You have plenty of time to recover, so there's something I never run. But I figured I would try them in this one. I would leave them, essentially crowd the board with bombs that you're going to have to go around, and either go around or go through, and that would give my K-wing time to essentially get away, if that makes sense.
I think though if you had maybe done like a 2 straight and then slammed again with the K-wing and then left the Ys to drop the nets, that might have been better.
Well, that was the plan. It's just you killed me in one turn. I mean, there was nothing I could do after that. If you remember, that first turn was
I guess
I had
that first
all
turn
three
you
of them.
2 and 2. That first turn,
right? But I wouldn't have been able to drop the proximities behind them without basically hitting my own ships. So
yeah.
And then the proximity basically closed the hole. That was the whole thing. Was it essentially that second turn you were going to be forced to move around. If you hadn't killed me on the second turn, I think I'd get away. Because you had one ship really that had a good shot on me, and if you had done like 4 damage to me in the first turn and left me with 4 or 5 hit points, quote unquote, then I would have, I think I would have been fine. I would have gotten away, and you would have been ionized, or at least spending 2 turns kind of wiggling in and out of all this stuff. And I still had more bombs and things to drop to kind of clutter the map up. But that devastation on the first turn was nothing I could do. And had I known I could park on the side of the map, it would have been a little different.
Yeah. So he put in the middle, which was frustrating. So, Phil, how did your missions go? Because I can go back and with mine afterwards, but let's hear from you.
So I played my 2 games with my brother, who's also one of my game partners. And we prepared lists in advance, and we made our lists with we made like 2 different kinds of lists. First one is sort of all out, no holds barred, do your best to win the mission type lists. And we both made like a rebel and imperial list for that. And then the second type of list that we made was restricting ourselves to only ships that appear in the core set and wave 1. So that's TIE Fighter, X-Wing, TIE Advanced, Y-Wing, I think. And I think that's just about it. And those are the only ships that we used. But we let ourselves use the upgrades from all the waves. Partly so that the X-Wings could get integrated astromech, which sort of brings them up a little bit. And interestingly enough, we both ended up making very similar lists for each of the Rebel and Imperial iterations of both playstyles and restrictions. So I don't know if that's because we're brothers or because the choices seemed obvious to us. So when we're only working with a core set, we both had Biggs, 2 cheap X-Wings, and 1 X-Wing with like a astromech and integrated astromech to try and just keep it alive a little longer. But Biggs being the main line of defense for protecting it.
So one of the other X-Wings you're saying was the disabled?
Right. So it would have been, I think I had like a red squadron pilot, and I gave it an ability to help keep it alive that didn't end up making much of a difference, I think. And for the Imperial attack squad, we both figured that a large group of TIE fighters, I think Black Squadron pilots with crack shot mainly, was the best way to go. So we each had like 6 or 7 TIE fighters with crack shot or juke, just to do maximum damage and also have good speed to react to to get across the board in case the rebels tried to run to a corner or an edge. We played 1 game with those lists, and it became very clear very quickly that TIE fighters with crack shot just tear apart X-Wings really fast. And so they get across the board fast enough so that by turn 2, almost all the TIE fighters were engaged and really putting in the damage. One thing that I was playing as the Rebels in that game. I didn't have a ion torpedo. And I was able to get it off and misdirect some of the TIE fighters, but even that did not buy me more than like maybe one turn extra. And I was thoroughly dead on turn 3 with not much chance of any sort of escape. And I tried to, hug the board edge, that sort of thing, get in among the asteroids and sort of try to make him come through the asteroids to get me, but nothing really seemed to be able to keep the TIE fighters off long enough. So that was pretty ugly.
I can see that with crack shot and all. It's like when I did the Imperial Gunslingers, where they all get the boosted attack. That really helped.
Yeah, I think we also might have said. Yeah, I think we actually said no bigs, had a no bigs agreement, which seems crazy in retrospect because you really need it in this mission. So that was pretty ugly. The next mission we played, I played as the Imperials and my brother played as the Rebels, and this was with no holds barred type lists. Both of us for our Rebel lists had our list centered around one beefy ship that was going to be the target for the mission, the disabled ship, and then sort of layered defense on top of that. So Rob had a Hawk with an ion cannon turret and Biggs, and he had Chewbacca as his disabled ship with C-3PO. So really, durable ship.
Yeah.
And for my attack squad there, I had sort of a very close to like a popular metagame list from maybe a couple waves ago. I had Rear Admiral Chirnu and Whisper.
Ah.
And I think I had Darth Vader and Gunner on the Decimal.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, to just, push damage through even if it was killing me.
Yeah.
And I think Whisper was kitted out with something pretty typical, veteran instincts and fire control system.
And
advanced cloaking device.
Cloaking device, right, of course.
So the idea behind that was that both ships were fast enough, and the Decimator also had engine upgrade. Both ships were fast enough to get across pretty much the whole board in one turn, which helped out a lot because my brother, so I deployed one ship in either zone.
Yeah.
My brother deployed in the center. He came to one side, and I was able to get across the board fast enough to get shots in with both ships on turn 1. Because it's just such a fast ship with engine upgrade.
I think J-Bot, if he had done, when he moved, he went straight. He was going to get through those asteroids. I think he was right. If he could have lasted one more turn, he would have plugged up, this kind of asteroid hole and gone through. But if another idea would have been to turn towards one side and gun for one side. Mm-hmm. Because what he did was he stayed, in the center, and he kind of moved
and try
straight.
And hope that you make the wrong guess,
and with TIE fighters going speed 5, forward, everybody was in range, and I got to light them up.
Right, but you can't really move that fast with the disabled ship. Remember, it's just a 1 or 2 speed.
Yeah, but the K-wing with the slam can actually essentially get a 5 move in a turn, and that's a huge move for a big, bulky ship with lots of hit points on it, with lots of hull and shield. But my main issue was I started square in the middle of the map. I think the way, I guess you kind of almost have to set up as the Imperial is with a pretty wide coverage, because if you lean towards one side or the other, where you have all your split them up, like the person can just sit on the other side and just do circles for a turn or two while you try and catch up. And that's ultimately kind of what got me when I played Jim. We reversed the roles. Was it took two of my 5 ships, essentially 3 turns to get into the engagement because he was so far onto one edge away from my kind of middle of the road setup. And I feel like if I had done the same thing and set up towards one far edge and just gunned towards one of the deployment zones or the other, it would have with that many hit points, it would have been a different game. But that's a live and learn sort of situation. And so, I'm obviously not the best tactician when it comes to these things.
So then, with Phil, with yours, how did it work with Vader and the evil Phantom?
Well, I was only able to kill Biggs on the second turn, and Rob, my brother, was able to get a block on the Phantom and eventually finish him off between Chewie and the Hawk. So I got a reinforcement tie in place of Echo, in place of Whisper. But I was able to push a lot of damage through with Rear Admiral Chirnu and using that Gunner and Vader combo to just keep on piling the damage on. And I was able to kill him just before turn 5. And so...
You'd almost thought if you could have gone with a generic with not the advanced cloaking, but the Stygian particle, which gives you the evade. I don't know if you can get like even 2 of those. Almost would be better because you don't care necessarily if you die too much. You just want to get your shots in.
Yeah, maybe it was like fire control or something like that. It might have been better. But Echo. Whispered puts in a lot of damage, especially the fire control, and knowing you're going to be going after pretty much just one target.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really disappointed in the damage output from Whisper, but I was able to get her killed.
Well, so when I did my list, I thought about it. I thought, okay, first thing, Biggs. Add in Biggs, and I put in integrated astromech and R4D6. And that's the one. If you take 3 or more damage, you can start adding in crits to reduce it down to 2 damage max. So I thought...
Yes. My brother also had R4D6.
Yeah. So that was my thought, basically, to ensure Biggs doesn't get blasted real fast. And then, for the target, I thought, who's the most annoying small base ship that is in the Rebel list that's really hard to kill, that people hate? And I thought, hey, Poe Dameron.
Ah, interesting.
So I went Poe Dameron with... and also, I haven't flown him really... I don't know if I've ever flown him before yet. Maybe once before. So I thought, hey, it'd be nice to try this Poe Dameron thing. And I threw on BB-8 because I thought that might give me some weird shenanigans to maybe get out of stuff with the free barrel roll.
Good maneuverability.
And I did push the limit and then an integrated astromech. So I tried that. And I think, actually, I think I used push limit maybe once. But I had the option there. So I did push the limit. So what was next, I took Kyle Katarn in a Hawk, which it's funny because I've been playing since Wave 1. So if you look at some of my dials, like my TIE fighters, because I played primarily Imperials, they are so worn. They're like the colors rubbed off them, the big
He's added
thumbprint
tape
on the
to them
dial.
to try and keep them together. It's pretty sad, really.
It wasn't tape, but I added these. Basically, it's kind of like tape. They're kind of so it doesn't smear off the rest of the cover. And then I pull out my Rebel Hawk dial, and it's like pristine. It looked like brand new. So I have not used it too often. I don't play Rebels too much. I haven't really done a Hawk that much. So I did Kyle Katarn, because he can pass the focus, and I took Jan Ors as a crew. who could then turn that focus into an evade.
Yeah, that's a great combo.
And I didn't, at that point, I only had 12 points left, and I did not give any other weapon on my Hawk at all, like a turret or anything.
Yeah.
I just threw in a Z95.
Yeah, that's very similar to what I had for my list, my Rebel no holds barred defense list. I was planning to bring Mirandadoni, I think without a turret, or maybe an ion cannon turret, with C-3PO. And I had a Cal Katarn and a Hawk with Janor's crew and Biggs. And I was just planning to use Mirandadoni's slam to get her out of tough spots.
Yep.
Soak up
Repair
as much,
shield.
regenerate those shields. Put evade tokens first on Biggs and then on Mirandadoni with Cal Katarn and Janor's crew. And just, turtle up hardcore until turn 5.
Yeah, well, and then J-Bot had he had a bunch of Z95s with missiles and cheap generic A-wing, and no, it was four Z95s. So 2 named, 2 generic.
I had every Z95 in the book for the Rebels. So the 2, 4, 6, and 8 versions of them.
And he had assault missile, iron pulse missile. What else was it? Homing missile.
A concussion missile with the crack shot on one of the guys, and a homing missile on one.
Right. All guidance chips. So, and he did, A-wing, another guy on one side, and all the rest of the others. And the asteroids were placed, and I kind of saw I needed to go towards one end, or those missiles were going to toast me. So I kind of all moved forward. And in that particular game, we've got pictures, so we'll try to see if we can post them somewhere. People are wanting to see this, and it looked like we were heading towards each other. Biggs had range, like there was a asteroid in the way. The assault missile was fired. I had 3 green dice with a free evade and a focus, and I rolled, and I got like evade, blank. It was an eyeball. I could have been, evaded the whole thing. But I think it was blunt anyway. It's blunt. So it would have counted as a hit.
Yeah, it still would have done this normal thing. But I think those were the only hits I made on Biggs, and I did a few more across the rest of the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was very bad rolling.
Well, it started off really well, though. And so that happens. And then he chewed up my Hawk, and he chewed up like my Z95 a bit. And then his dice went meh. But the other guys in the far end were zipping to come up, and it took them all to come in because I turned into the other guys, and I figured I could try to get through those asteroids. But I quickly realized I'm not going to get through those asteroids, and it's a giant cluster. And the next turn there's going to be huge bumpage, and if I really try to send Poe through there, because Biggs was going first, and he was going to bump into everybody. And because he was lower PS, I was trying to get him to cause bumpage, and if everybody would be shooting at Poe, and he'd be toast. So I actually used the BB-8, and I did like a 1 bank, and I barrel rolled, and then did the 1 bank, and I was going to try to then boost to get further around the asteroid, but I just didn't have enough room to be facing the end of the map. But I just at least kind of got out of that whole mess, and the Hawk got some more damage, and we shot at each other, and basically the whole turnaround was happening as it was kind of, I was worried about it, but Poe was able to do a hard turn, and boost, and my other guys were able to shoot through the mess, and I got Biggs and Kyle Katarn next to Poe, and the Z95 was in a blocking position. There was a couple times people couldn't shoot at Biggs, and I didn't push the limit. I should have, but I didn't push the limit because I didn't think it was necessary, and he took a couple shots at me, and Poe lost all 3 of his shields, so one from the assault missile, and then 2 of their shield gone. So he actually, took damage. Yeah, I was a little nervous about that. But then,
I made a decision there on that last turn to turn. I thought you were going to make a run for it, if that makes sense. But I basically was like, okay, he's going to make a run for it. So I banked my pilot skill 8 guy away from the fight, expecting you to kind of run because everything was kind of focused in on one spot. And he was the last one left. He had the crack shot and the concussion missile, which I think would have come close to ending it. But it was one of those where, well, he didn't end up in the arc. It's like, I got target lock. I got everything I need. I just need him to be in arc. And me not have Biggs in the way. And
I thought you had arc, but you didn't have the target lock.
No, he had. Yeah, everybody had target lock on Poe that last turn, but everybody had to fire at Biggs. I was trying to get an angle. I was like, okay, I know he's not going to be able to get Biggs around, and I need to be able to get my guy turned to a point where I'm not aiming at Biggs, but I'm going to have him in the arc. And if you had boosted on that last turn, you would have been in the arc.
I was planning on boosting, but then when I saw that, I was like, I'll choose not to boost.
Yeah, that was one of those things where him moving second, like he was, I guess, essentially I had initiative. We both had 8s. I moved first. So it was one of those where, well, he can see exactly where I'm aiming, and there's nothing I can do to change that. I'm just going to pull up short of the arc, and he's not going to be able to fire his. Yeah,
if you were able to fire, that would have been pretty nasty. I fully admit, because Biggs would have been Biggs would have been out of arc just behind me. So
yeah, exactly. It was one of those. It was a close call. I made, as often I do, bad mistakes there at the beginning, and you did the right thing of barrel rolling around that asteroid and kind of having everybody stuck where they were at.
And then he was able to get an ion pulse missile, and he hit me, but it was like the last round, and I was going to be able to just kind of turn off and win, but he hit me with the ion pulse missile because I didn't push the limit. But anyways, but what I was able to do, I went one straight, and then I just boosted off the board, and I was so close to the board edge. And so I did get off, and I think I managed to kill one ship, and that was the only ship that died the entire game. Actually,
yeah. Well, I mean, killing the opponent's ships is really not that important unless it's like a very special ship that is doing a lot of damage due to its special abilities or something like that. Because everything just comes back as I guess a Z95 in your case, but an Academy pilot in normal case.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the way we were treating it, was just the lowest level Z95.
Right, it makes sense.
Now, we did talk about some things before about if you were going to run this mission, how you would want to have rules against, because you could break this mission pretty stupidly. If you had the attack shuttle as your disabled ship, and you took the titles and you docked it with the Ghost, and then you have enough points to put in Biggs.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine ever being able to kill that ship in time.
You have to kill Biggs, and then the Ghost, and then kill the attack shuttle all before it gets off the board 5 turns. It's like that's stupid. You just can't allow that to happen. So
right.
And there's different strategies, because if you went with like a big ship, it's possible. I think maybe the Outrider might be best because it's got the 2 agility.
The Outrider would be the one I would choose if I was going to choose a big ship, because the rest of them would just get pounded on. Like even the Ghost would get hit pretty hard, assuming Biggs isn't there to get in the way. But it would get hit pretty hard just kind of standing still and with no agility at all.
Yeah, you know what might be interesting in this would be a Outrider with maybe like a sort of like a super dash, except instead of the heavy laser cannon, he has a tractor beam, right? And then so when you hit with your tractor beam, you like barrel roll the guy you're shooting at, so he doesn't have a shot anymore, or you boost him out of a shot. Yeah, see what I'm thinking?
Well, I don't know, because that's possible, but even with the heavy laser cannon, no matter what you kill, what's going to come back is going to be an Academy pilot, and your opponent
but what if
probably got
you're
something
fighting
better.
like 6 TIE fighters, Like,
yeah, but they're probably going to be better. They're going to be
a great list for this game is just 6 TIE fighters with crack shot.
But they're going to be 6 TIE fighters with crack shot. What's going to be replaced is maybe you can kill one before it uses its crack shot.
Yeah, but
it's going to be replaced by a guy without crack shot.
Okay, but maybe he's already used his crack shot by then.
Right. But if you can kill them before they use their crack shot, that's I don't know.
Just don't see too much use in killing enemy ships in this game. It's more, you should not be spending tokens offensively. You should be keeping them for defense. I think that all of your attacks and offensive actions in this should just be directed towards keeping the enemy from being able to shoot at you. So I'm talking about ion control, stress control, tractor beams, that sort of thing. Just buying yourself more time where you can't be shot.
Right.
And maybe one way to do that is to kill an enemy ship before it gets a chance to shoot. If you have like a bunch of high pilot skill ships and you can take a TIE fighter off the board before it shoots you, even though it's going to come back next turn, it's still a turn that's not shooting. That makes sense.
Is there anything in the mission parameters themselves that need to be changed to kind of avoid that sort of thing? I mean, I don't like the idea, because you'd mentioned this kind of with the first one, of the whole suicide run style.
Yeah.
And this feels a little bit like that, which is just run and gun at that thing and to heck with anything else that gets in your way.
I'd say it's even worse because there's very little downside to losing your ships, because you just get them, they come back as Academy pilots immediately, and you can put them in very useful positions because the zones that you deploy in are also the escape zones. So the rebel is either going to be, close to one of those zones or headed to that zone in order to escape at any given time. So you can put your TIE fighter in really an optimal position to intercept and maybe block or, just get a really good shot. And meanwhile, you have your one target that you're interested in only. There's absolutely no point to shoot any other rebel ship than your target, unless you have to in the case of Biggs. So I mean, the decision
Biggs definitely changes things.
I'd say that the problem is the decision making, right? There's very little strategic decision making here. Each side knows what they need to do to win before the game starts. The Imperials need to concentrate fire, get close, roll out of attack dice, take out Biggs, take out the ship they're going after. There's really, it's not complicated. And for the rebels, it's just turtle up as much as possible.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit like the escort mission from Mission 1, minus the fact that you don't have kind of the, what do they call it, the protect actions. As the Republic, you don't have that ability, which I thought was a little funny. When I read through, I'm like, wait a minute. This seems like the perfect opportunity to have those protects if I can have them in the first one. But maybe that kind of overpowers, makes it... Because the first one, I think the fastest you can get that ship off, the escort... not the escort. The shuttle was like 6 or 7 turns. It was quite a long time, even if you just ran full bore 2 straight across the map. It was quite a number of turns.
Right, but you can get off the board. I think
and
turn 5 here.
Yeah.
Is it turn 5 if you go?
I think turn 5 is when the ship is repaired.
Yeah. Oh no, I was talking about the very first Mission 1.
Oh, like Mission 1. I'm not sure how fast you can get off, but
yeah, I think it's got to be at least 7 turns because of, and that's without anything getting in the way. I feel like
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's not. Somebody can do the math, but that getting essentially 4 turns is really all you're having to wait, because that 5th turn, if you set yourself up right, you should be able to with almost any ship, because the K-wing, for example, can just blister off that edge. If it's, as soon as it gets the full drive up, it's like, oh, I'm going essentially 7 forward in one turn.
Right.
I can clear half the map in one turn.
Can't keep the ship on the board.
Yeah,
it's a tough pickle. I mean, I don't know if this mission can really be fully fixed, even just looking at it. I think the premise is just weird and awkward in a few different ways.
Yeah, you'd mentioned about how it feels non-thematic as well, and
right.
I kind of agree with you. It definitely it feels like Biggs tends to be everywhere. Like,
right, Biggs always tends to be on this recon mission.
Yeah, it's like, what is Biggs doing? He's always escorting senators and just happens to be on a recon mission when one of the ships needs to be escorted. It's like, what? Yeah. This doesn't make sense. Apparently he's one of the 3 pilots they have, and everybody else is just busy in the cantina.
The problem is that if we go back and read the flavor text for this mission, it's not like these rebels planned to be defending one ship against a wave of TIE fighters, right? They're supposed to be surprised by what's happening here. But if you look at how we built our lists, we're planning ahead of time to defend one specific ship against waves of Imperials.
Yeah. So here's a question:
so
what if you changed it? What if you changed it so that the ship was in a sense random? So you make your list, and the ship that's disabled is either chosen by the Imperial player after all the setup's done, or is chosen before setup's done, but the Imperial gets to choose. Says, hey, I'm going to make it that ship, and then you have to kind of adjust around it, because the Imperial player is obviously not going to say, oh, it's the Falcon with Chewbacca.
Right.
He's going to choose he might choose Biggs. He might specifically say, oh, it's Biggs.
Right.
Biggs is the one that just happened to get hit by the ion cannon. And now you've got to figure out a way, in a sense, to keep him from being shot by absolutely everyone, no matter what where they happen to be. So maybe that's a way to kind of get around that.
You would have to change a lot about the way the mission is balanced, the way the mission, the way you deploy. I think that there's very few things about this mission that I would not go back and change, frankly. I think like the reinforcements. Why do the Imperials even get reinforcements? I don't even know why they deserve to get reinforcements.
I didn't like that in Mission 1 either. So that feels a little. I'd say it feels overpowered, but really in 5 turns. Don't need them. Yeah, you don't really need them,
as far as I'm concerned. But especially if it's going to be a random ship. I mean, then the Imperials obviously have a even more clear advantage. But it's even as is.
You talking about, Jay, about your suggestions makes me think of what, some of the comments we got actually for our last podcast, or one of our other podcasts. Biophysical, the TIE Defender guy, was saying that he was listening and said that part of the problem is that when you've got a mission and you cater your lists, to the mission, it gets broken, like you're saying. And his solution is to have a kind of casual league or game night or mission-based night, and you have your lists, but then there's say a stack of 10 missions, and you randomly determine what the mission is for that particular game, so that you can't necessarily pick. I know what the mission's going to be, so I'm going to pick a uber defensive, game. But you can pick a all-comers, well-balanced kind of list. Not knowing what the mission's going to be, then you'll get one of these various missions.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to approach playing these types of missions.
Yeah, forcing players to kind of be more middle of the road would take away, I think, a lot of in a sense, the inherent weaknesses of these missions. I also think the reinforcements just feels overpowered in general to me. Although it didn't really come into play for us, it was just in general, it feels kind of, why do the Imperials get free ships? No matter how hard, like if I build a list and I'm just on it and I'm really hammering them, like it actually hurts me because they're dumping these ships right in my path.
And you're wasting your time and energy on those, killing those ships.
It was back when there was only X-Wings and TIE fighters, and X-Wings destroyed TIE fighters back in the day, crunched them a lot. And nowadays it's not quite the same. So It makes me think that the whole thing with missions is what happened with Warhammer Fantasy Battle. That basically there was tournaments and everyone was deathmatch. You know, is you already you kill the other person. But with one of the rules one of the editions that came out, they said these are the 6 missions, and every game you randomly determine what the mission is. And one of them was deathmatch. But all the other ones had all these different components. And and at first everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is going to destroy competitive tournament, Warhammer." But the scene only grew, and it's one of those things that I kind of wish X-Wing would do, is to add in some various missions to a tournament, because I would enjoy it more, because it would create a more balanced type list building and more variety. Because when what we're saying is, if you just kind of have these all-comer lists, it can prevent the insanity of some of these missions where you build your list to win the mission.
Well, I think Armada does that, doesn't it? I've only played one game. I think it has that kind of dynamic to it, doesn't it? Where you choose a mission, or both players have a mission they're doing, sort of thing. I don't know the rules, and I know somebody might be screaming in their car right now listening to this, but wasn't it like each player has a mission, but the other person doesn't know exactly what it is? Maybe I'm thinking of a completely different game, but
no, it's what it is, and it's something about one person is the one that gets to pick the mission, and but at the same time, there's like 50 missions or something, and you get to pick like 3 that are for you, and then the person gets their 3. But what if it was just completely and utterly random? Not you get to pick your mission. And maybe it's going to be the one that goes out. But what if the mission was an utterly random mission that was tossed out? Like, what if there was only 10 or 6 or 8 or whatever, and then those missions were the potential missions you could play? And the thing is, I think from Armadas, you could still kind of gear it towards, the ones that do well for you. You pick your 3.
Yeah, there's a choice in there. One of the player chooses from a selection of 3 missions. I think it has to do with initiative. I don't know the exact rules, but it's an interesting way, and they have a big deck of missions too.
I think that's something that it would take a lot of balance in this sort of game to take it up to that level. Not that we're looking to take it to a tournament level, but it definitely would take balance, because I know that it would be very easy in a sense to kind of unbalance it, where a mission like this, if it falls out in front of you, you're like, oh my God, I mean, I've got to somehow, with my relatively low damage output, chew through one of those U-boats in 4 turns. Like, oh my goodness, or vice versa. I've got to somehow keep one of these one ace alive out of the group.
The danger with like a random mission setup is that you would pull a mission where the outcome is essentially decided before the mission starts, because of the lists that both players have.
Right. But in some, like, if you can make the missions not so bad, make them very broad, but at the same time, there'll be some lists that will just be screwed in some missions.
Yeah, but you want to give the missions to your players ahead of time so they know what is coming up. Or what's
right? There might be some when you've got a fully fat Han loaded up or something. When your entire list is like 2 ships that you're going to lose,
Yeah.
Because it's like protect the 3 objectives, and you've only got 2 ships. Like, what can you do?
Yeah. I think that if you let the players know ahead of time, that goes a long way to not creating like a hostile game environment. Because then, if they're going to make those choices, if they're making informed choices, then it doesn't feel so bad for them, if they get screwed by what comes up.
Right, yeah, because it would feel at least a little bit like the old damage deck from the original one, where a couple of the cards they legitimately had to take out because of just how much they hurt certain ships. I know the one, for example, that takes a secondary weapon killed my Hawk list in at least one game. Yeah. It's like, well, there goes my ion turret. There goes
or my TIE bombers. But people most other ships loved it because it was like an empty crit.
Yeah.
Do we want to? I want to talk quickly about reinforcements from a scenario design point of view, since we kind of agreed that reinforcements are sort of ham-handed in this mission, don't seem like they work well or belong.
I do believe they think I am some sort of god. How rude! I've just about had enough of you.
So I want to talk about reinforcements here, and reinforcements show up in both Mission 1 and Mission 2. And I think that in both cases they kind of mess with how the mission works, and I don't think they work well in the mission. They feel weird for a few different reasons. So one of the reasons that the reinforcements as they exist in these two scenarios and the way they work is that when the Imperials lose a ship at the end of the turn, at the end of the round, they can replace that ship with an Academy pilot that they have control of. And this is kind of weird, both mechanically and thematically. Thematically, it's weird because I don't understand what these ships are doing, like, in the meantime, right? Are they just TIE fighters just waiting just outside the engagement zone, just waiting to swoop in when one of their buddies die? I mean, like,
the Imperial net is big.
Yeah, they're just there to watch and observe, like, because they're the lowest ranking pilots, and the higher ranking guys, they're like, listen, this is just how it's done. Get a little bit of experience while you wander around, see how we do it, and if one of us gets in a little trouble,
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the extras in an action like fight movie, like the ninjas surrounding Jackie Chan or someone, or like the putties in Power Ranger, where like only one of them is allowed to fight the heroes at a time, and then when they get their asses kicked, then they get a replacement, and then only then can the replacement come in.
If you think about this, I've read a few books and just a few, and they always say that fighting in a group, as a group, is something you have to train for. So the putties knew this, and if they went in like as a group, they just get in each other's way. So they went in one at a time because that's the way they were trained, and obviously that's how the Imperial trains them is you go in one at a time, or you're just going to hit each other because you're
maximum
newbies.
Effectiveness.
Yeah, you're newbies. You got to go in one at a time, and we'll wear them down with, wave after wave of one guy at a time. We've taken out this whole kind of 300 version of fighting, and we just do it automatically. We figure we'll eventually get good at funneling one person at you at a time.
So the other bad thing about the reinforcements in these missions is that it really disincentivizes the rebel player from even trying to kill, from spending any effort or energy trying to kill Imperial ships. And it's especially bad in Mission 1 because the Imperial ships' reinforcements appear exactly where the shuttle is trying to escape off the board. So they can do things like intercept the shuttle, get in its way, or at the very least get range 1 attacks on it, get really, just completely in the clear. And that's actually really bad for you as the rebel player. For example, if you kill a TIE fighter in the back of that is far away from the shuttle, and it appears close to the shuttle, then you've actually made your situation worse by destroying an enemy ship. And I feel like that is a terrible way for a scenario to be built, because it means that it's often in your favor not to engage the enemy.
Yeah.
And it works the same. It's very similar in Mission 2, because the Imperial ships also show up right where the rebel ship is trying to escape, on the table edges. So I don't think I don't think that reinforcements are implemented well in either of those missions. Speaking broadly about reinforcements, I think there's basically two categories of ways that you can implement reinforcements in a scenario. One is automatic arrival of reinforcements. So this could be like a predefined group of reinforcements, like 2 or 3 TIE fighters that appear automatically on like turn 3 or turn 4, and in a defined area. And then there's also another category of reinforcements which I called like triggered reinforcements. So the reinforcements in Mission 1 and Mission 2 sort of fall in this category because the arrival of an Imperial TIE fighter reinforcement is triggered by the destruction of an Imperial ship in that round. So you destroyed Imperial TIE fighter, another one shows up to replace it. It's a triggered reinforcement. You can have other triggers for reinforcements. For example, if you're playing a scenario with objectives in it, the arrival of reinforcements might be triggered by meeting one of those objectives. And that can actually be good in a mission. So we already talked a little bit about like bad reinforcements in Mission 1 and Mission 2, where the reinforcements rule makes an unnatural game state where you don't want to attack the enemy because attacking them makes them stronger sometimes, because the reinforcements show up in a positionally advantageous position, and can actually swing the game in favor of the other guy by destroying their ships. Makes no sense. But there are good ways to have reinforcements in a game. A good example of reinforcements done well, I think, comes in Heroes of the Droid Cluster. So you guys have played Heroes of the Droid Cluster. The reinforcements in that game, in that campaign,
Yep.
They show up automatically on certain turns, and they're defined based on how many rebel players you have, and there's also a little bit of randomness built into that. Sometimes the randomness is the position on the board where they come in, and also sometimes there's random Imperial ships that show up. So you might have like a TIE Bomber or TIE Advance or TIE Interceptor that shows up, and you're not sure ahead of time which it's going to be. And I think that reinforcements, when they work like that, they sort of work to increase the pressure on the players. So when you're playing a Heroes of the Droid Cluster game, you almost have there's like a time crunch. There's a time pressure on you. You need to engage the Imperials fast, destroy them before all these reinforcements show up and then swarm you and destroy you, because they're just simply overpowering you through sheer numbers, right?
Yep. Yeah, that definitely feels more thematic than what we've seen in these first 2 missions. More of a, they sent one wave because an alarm went off, and then it's like, more and more are starting to come in as the time goes by, unless you get out of there fast. And it definitely feels more like what I would expect if it was a real engagement, than what the first 2 missions we've seen so far.
That's why it's a good example. It works mechanically and thematically to make a good game. But you can also have good reinforcements that come on triggers. So some of the reinforcements in Heroes of the Droid Cluster actually work on triggers also. Like when you destroy a target or you complete part of your objectives, it triggers the arrival of another set of Imperial ships, and that serves to either advance the progression of that mission, or it serves to increase the pressure on the players at a critical moment and make the game, up the stakes in the game, increase pressure on the players, make it more interesting that way, more dramatic. I did something similar in one of my early scenarios called Gamma Base. The premise of that scenario is that there's a group of Imperial fighters hunting for a rebel base in an asteroid field. There's, I think, about 120 points of Imperial ships. They can use sort of a target lock type action to scan asteroids. The rebel base is hidden on like the underside of one of the asteroids, so you put like a paper slip underneath an asteroid before the game starts, and that's the rebel base. And there's a few rebel ships flying around the asteroid field to hamper the Imperials as they try to scan the asteroid field. And when the Imperials find the asteroid that has the rebel base on it, then they call in their attack squadron with TIE bomb. You know, that could be like TIE bombers and ships that are sort of thematically and mechanically built to engage and destroy the rebel base. And the rebels also get reinforcements that deploy out of the rebel base on that trigger. And there's also another way that all those reinforcements can get triggered. The rebel player can actually decide to, at any point, deploy their reinforcements from the hidden rebel base. So thematically, this is like it's a hidden rebel base on an asteroid, right? And there's Imperial ships in the area, so they're sort of, like a U-boat underneath the ocean. They've got all their, they've got all their power on low. They're trying to be as quiet as possible so that the Imperials can't see them. But maybe if the Imperial ships fly right past them and they see like an opening, the rebels decide to launch the rest of their fighters, so they reveal their location of their base, but maybe they can get a momentary tactical advantage and clean out the Imperial ships as they pass by and try to do a scanning.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting little fold in that mission, and it's a way that reinforcements, I think, can work well in a mission. There's one last way that I want to talk about using reinforcements to improve your game experience, is that in a really big, like epic casual type game where you're just having like a big game with a whole bunch of guys at your game club, it can be good to allow players to enter the game after the game has started already, using like a reinforcements type rule. So this is for games where you have like four or six people, and a couple of your guys show up late. I think in my old game club, there was a few people who were notorious for showing up late. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is probably normal. And
yeah, there's always one or two people that can't make it in till really late.
Right. And it's good to have something in place that they can use to jump into a game already in progress. And reinforcements is a great way to do that. Just for one of those big casual games, it's fairly easy. Just allow both sides an equal number of ships that can fly in from a port edge. It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, it's not too bad in those big games. So here's a question for you, and I think we've all done other miniature type games. Some of them use essentially not reinforcements but reserves. So say you played your 150 point game instead of 100 points, but 50 points of them had to be, in a sense, a reserve force. That in those other games, it tended to be you couldn't bring them in phase one or round one or turn one, and then every round after it, you essentially had to roll for it, but the rolls got easier. So they could come in round two, but it's it has to be a 2 or less on a D6, and then it gets progressively easier, 3 or less, 4 or less, so that you're like, I know they're on the way, I know they're coming in, but it was also like you had to, at least in the ones I've played, you had to choose a point on the board before the game. So, let's say you split the board up into eights, half of each side, for example. You had to choose, like, these are my reserves. They're going to come in on board section 6, and
right.
Then it's like, okay, no matter where I'm at on the map, I know they're going to come in at some point rounds 3 plus. So I need to kind of plan my strategy around getting them closer, getting my opponent set up in a bad position before my reserves come in without knowing where he's got his reserves designed.
Right, yeah.
And they could, in a sense, come in on top of each other. Like, oh God, we all came in out of hyperspace at the same point. But what's your thought on that? I know it's not so much a mission design thing, but it could work as one.
Yeah, there is a probably overly complicated mission that I made a while back, maybe a year and a half ago, where the whole premise of the mission in the first place is to have like a wildly imbalanced points-wise mission where the rebels are trying to utilize guerrilla tactics to defeat a numerically superior Imperial force. And one of the ways they do this is they have like a very highly variable deployment set of deployment options. So they can hyperspace in, they can come in off of the board edge. They can the mission is a attack on a customs control point. So there's like freighters moving through and little like Imperial customs station. One of the other ways the rebels can show up on the table is that they can actually be inside one of the freighters. So there's like almost like a Q ship type freighter where it's instead of cargo, there's rebel ships hidden in the cargo containers, and they just fly out.
Morse.
Yeah, exactly. And the rebels also have a variable objective scheme, so they have to do 2 out of 3 objectives, and they can decide which one they want to do. So they can like attack the freighters, they can attack nav buoys, or they can attack the customs station. And the Imperial player has, I think, maybe double the points that the rebels have, but it's a epic size board, so it's like 6x3, and the Imperials have a lot of space to cover. So the difficulty for them is trying to. Yeah, it's an interesting mission. I actually have never played it. It's hard to. It's really hard to. A lot of these missions I test by myself, just on like Vassal. I play offline and set up the mission and play through it. But this one, it's hard to do. It's hard to test yourself because I know where my rebel ships are going to show up. So I can never play the Imperial like they should actually play in real life because I know what's going to happen. It's impossible to pretend not to.
There's also even random as well.
Yeah, the random thing's the only thing I could think of, but it's still interesting to hear, and it sounds like there's a ton of options even within those.
Yeah, definitely.
Those boundaries, and that's what I enjoy exploring, for good or bad in my own play style. But I enjoy exploring all of those kind of weird intricacies that you can get into from, as long as we stay away from what Fantasy Flight kind of created. I don't think they realized at that point kind of the animal that this thing would become.
No,
it was very much a beginning. Oh, these are some neat little missions that are fun, and now we're getting into the age of I can destroy that mission with a couple of new cards that came out. And
they did not anticipate TIE Phantoms and large base ships boost, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Action. Yeah, there's a lot of new toys.
I know we've got a number of fans who do really appreciate this segment when you talk about things, like when you talk about the Suicide Run, for people who do want to kind of come up with their own mission ideas, their own kind of cool little concepts, and just kind of ways to either make it unique or to avoid, the same pit traps of what we're running into going through these missions. So I think it's pretty cool to talk about these things and find new and interesting ways to kind of play the same game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke with quite a few people who are actually starting to play those missions. They've never looked at them before, and now they're like, you know what? I do kind of want to try those missions, even if it's just for to see how bad I can break it. It's still it's still getting people to try these missions, and that's great. I like that people are starting to think outside that kind of death match style. Even the people that's what they came into the game, and they kind of didn't realize that there was more to it. That they had those more options out there. And yes, some of these missions are broken. I don't think the first one was as broken as the second one. But
I think the second one doesn't work as well thematically either.
Right, but I'm anxious to see what the third one brings us. And
yeah,
I've taken a peek ahead. I think it can be broken pretty easily. But
yeah, but I mean it felt like they got, and we've played essentially the latest ones first,
right?
You know, and now we've played kind of the earliest ones, and it does seem like there was an evolution. There's still some weaknesses all the way across, but it does feel like there was at least some evolution in their way of creating these missions to be more balanced, because they're not straight 100 point versus 100 point. They've done some weird things with you get one ship. Like, that's it. Like that's the rule, not a point. You get one ship. And I'm interested to get into those and see what happens now that we're starting to play through them.
Yeah, it's great that more people are playing these missions too, or thinking about playing them, and even if it is just to see how much they can break them, because actually trying to break a mission is a critical part of actually building good missions. Because one of the most important steps that you have to take when you're trying to write a good mission is you have to go and try to break it, and that's that's how you can fix those, prevent it, keep from publishing a broken mission.
You need play testers.
Absolutely. Well, that goes hand in hand really with the play testing of the cards and ships as they come out all the time. I do feel, not being an expert in that side of it, that you need to kind of also rotate and evolve your playtesting group, because they're going to get in ruts. They're going to get into a kind of this is how I always attack a mission, and if I can't break it this way, then it can't be broken. Like that's where you kind of need all that input from different people thinking from different angles at it. Otherwise, you end up with ships with a 4 attack skill that shouldn't, that really should have been a 3, and that sort of thing is you have a very single focused group that's just gotten into a rut, and you need to think outside of it. So
the first
I'm anxious to get into some of these ones that you've created too. I really want to start tearing into those and see how well you were able to keep them from being broken.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of the early missions that I wrote are probably not up to my current standards. I actually really should go back and look at them. But I think pretty early on, I realized that trying to break the mission was important. Like one of the first things I always do after I write the first draft of a mission is I go back and look at it. And I think I shared this with you, Jim, but have you seen Rocky IV? There's that scene where Rocky's fighting Ivan Drago, right?
Yeah.
And before they start the
match,
match,
is this? I've never.
Rocky IV.
It doesn't sound right. What, 4? They made more than one Rocky.
Oh yeah. Maybe even a Rocky V. I don't know. Maybe.
Did they have Rocky 13 where it's him versus Jason?
Yeah.
What was the one from Spaceballs? Rocky 5000.
Yeah.
But anyway, right before the match starts, Drago just stares down Rocky and says, "I must break you." And that's what you got to look at in every mission and say that to the mission. You must say, "I must break you."
Now, I will say, just about testing missions or playing missions even, the Sling Paint guys were at the game store tonight. They're local YouTubers who have, I think, a bigger following than we do at the moment. But they're really nice guys. And we were trying to work with them to see if they'll actually, because they do a lot of different YouTube stuff. They'll do video reports or battle reports. They'll cover lists. They'll do all sorts of things. But we talked to them about actually them playing some of the missions we talk about, and I have all the trench run stuff that if you've seen some of the pictures I've put on like FFG or maybe the Facebook page of all the different the little paper turrets and the Death Star top and everything. I let them borrow it, so hopefully they'll actually do a video report of the trench run that we talked about. They heard us discussing the strategy and such, and tactics, and so it'd be great to see them actually run through and try that mission.
Yeah, I hope they actually video their first run through. Yeah, because that's the one that I'm most curious about, because that's the one where you have no idea what to expect. You don't have any idea like how difficult or easy it might be. I know we discussed it in pretty good detail, but you're still coming at it with fresh eyes. Like, oh, well, are they going to try it real thematically, or are they going to just try and go at it full bore with engine upgrades and all sorts of crazy stuff and see what happens? And I think they'll be pleasantly surprised. I mean, it does have some problems, but at the same time, every time we played, it came down to the you get one shot. Like, and really, that's the ultimate goal of that mission. And really, every mission that I like to see is, if it's really balanced, it should come down to essentially that 50-50 sort of deal at the end. You know, do I get that shot off before, they blow my ship up, or do I not? Do I get Jim right? Do I get him in arc right before he runs off the ship, runs off the board, or do I not? And to me, that's how missions should feel. Is, oh man, if I just got that one dice roll, I would have won it, and not how our first game went, which is turn 2. I was like, go ahead, move your ship and roll the attack now. Like, don't even bother me for the rest of the ships. Finish that one, shoot. Hey, okay, I survived. Now move your next one and shoot. I don't want to go through the whole turn. It was so bad. And if a mission goes that way, it really kind of disheartens you a little bit. But if it goes that 50-50, it's a lot of fun.
Like, I think it is important to try to do it more than once. Like, try it, you made the mistake, it was horrible. But learn from your mistakes and try it again. How does the mission work now? Did you redo your list, or just take the same list and replay it differently?
Absolutely.
Like that type stuff I think it's important when you do these missions to actually try them multiple times, because you learn from them. Replay value.
Yeah, play them backwards and forwards. Don't just stick with one side. Play both sides. Try and outthink yourself in a way. Like, well, let me see what I would have done in a sense to beat my own list. Was it just that bad, or was it really just a setup problem? Was it a decision I made at the beginning, just tactically, that I stuck to? That I didn't say, "Oh man, this is a really bad decision." I think a lot of people get into this when they play in general. I know I do. This is my tactic, and if it doesn't work, I'm just gonna, put my head down and charge forward, and hopefully somehow I figure it out, versus, oh, I need to adapt. Like, I've really screwed this up. I need to make an instant change in my tactics and move to something else. Now, the missions it's hard to do that, but I think in general, that's what the replay value there is for, is okay, I really messed that up tactically. Let me rethink everything I was doing.
The build
don't just say,
too. You can't change that once the mission starts.
Don't just try it once and something go horribly wrong and go, oh, the mission sucks, it's unbalanced, there's no chance of winning, I'm done.
That's my job. I do that. Everybody else, y'all play it multiple times. Let me get mad and say this is impossible, and then Jim shows me it's not impossible, and I feel like crap. Like, that's my job. Y'all's job is to play this multiple times.
All right. So I think we're running a bit late, and we should probably check on Jake's oxygen tank to make sure he's actually still out there.
I told Gonk to bring an extra tank.
Yeah, but Gonk.
God.
Hey guys, the ship is in working condition. You're welcome. Everyone get back on board. We got passengers probably to pick up. Any last words?
Don't beat me, but have fun. don't get mad at the game. Have fun.
Break your missions when you're writing them. Break your missions first before you give it to everybody else.
Yeah, and also when you're piloting a ship, make sure you don't do any illegal moves for the ship class that you have there to keep it in good working condition.
All right, and we'll see if we can get FFG to change their mission control so we can actually search in these missions in some better format. So please. But excellent. Everybody, thanks for tuning in for this particular episode of the Shuttle Tydirium podcast. We appreciate you listening in. We would love to get your feedback, and we hope you had a good time listening.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
All right, everybody.